everyone. This is the Parks Academy, where we discuss and celebrate all things theme parks related. We focus mainly on Disney parks and resorts in both Anaheim and Orlando. My name is Paige,
I'm Steven.
and today we will be continuing our Disney Artist Spotlight series.
This week, we are going to be interviewing Jerrod Maruyama, and we're really excited to have him on our show. He was so much fun to interview, and obviously his artwork is just unbelievable. So it's a real privilege to have him. Before we jump right into our interview, though, what are you thinking about and excited about this week?
I am excited about the Grammys. So the Grammys will be airing Sunday night right before this podcast goes live on Monday morning. So we will already know who won all of the things. But I am hoping, with all of my fingers and toes crossed, for a few Harry Styles wins.
Okay.
And maybe a few Lizzo wins. Those are my people.
Okay.
I love them both very much.
Huh.
And I am very excited
That's great.
for the Grammys.
I don't know. I don't really think that I know too much about any of the nominees and stuff this year. It makes me sound like an old like an old fuddy-duddy. But I'm sure it's gonna be cool.
You're not a big awards show guy, except the
No,
Oscars.
I only like the Oscars and the Emmys sometimes, but the Oscars is really what gets me. Yeah, I'm looking at all the albums and records of the year and stuff, and none of them really. I think it's so funny that ABBA has a record of the year or
I
album.
know.
Yeah, it'd be so funny if they swept the Oscars, but I don't think that's gonna happen. Grammys, not Oscars. See, I got Oscars in my head now.
You did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thinking about all the movies that
Yes.
all the Best Picture movies that I've watched.
There you go. So what are you excited about this week? Because I know it's not the Grammys.
No, it's not, and it's also not football either. Quite the opposite, actually.
Wait, one last thing
Mhm.
that I'm looking forward to at the Grammys is I hope Taylor Swift also gets a win.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
That's my 3 cents. Harry
Yeah.
Styles, Lizzo, and Taylor
The
Swift.
problem for me is like all of the albums that I like are not something that is even on the main stage. So like Certainty by Big Thief is on the alternative album of the year, but that never does anything. So a lot of the bands that I typically like, they're not really on the main stage. So not really a big pop music kind of fan, but whatever, no biggie.
I take all of the pop music fandom over here.
I only listen to Disney park music.
Or Disney soundtracks.
Oh, yeah, or Disney soundtracks.
We listen to Moana and Encanto and Frozen.
Yeah, or this
on a
podcast, I
cycle.
guess. Okay, so
Back to you. What are you excited about?
gosh, yeah. So I don't know, actually.
Football is over and
Football's
you have
over.
nothing
My
left
team
to
is
be
out.
excited about.
No, that's not true at all. That's really not true. You know, this is gonna sound weird, but I'm kind of excited that the sun has been out more frequently. Like today was in the 20s for the weather, so it was cold, but we had a lot of sun, so that was nice. Not a huge fan of gloomy, sad forecasts. I don't mind if it snows. I think it's nice because it really brightens everything up. But I don't really like it to be gray and dreary. So if
Right,
it's going to
those-
be cold, like I might as well have it snow.
Exactly. The gray winter days are tough.
Yeah. So I think that the sun being out has been nice, and I'm excited about that.
That was a very optimistic thing for you to say.
Yeah. You know.
I love that.
All right. So, Jerrod Maruyama is a freelance illustrator specializing in cute character designs and concepts. He has worked with some of the biggest brands in the world, including Disney, Pixar, DreamWorks, Warner Brothers, Netflix, Facebook, Target, and more. He's been hired to bring his particular brand of cute to global properties such as Star Wars, Harry Potter, Batman, Stranger Things, and other big pop culture entities that you may know about. Jerrod currently resides in Southern California, just down the road from Disneyland. So without further ado, we are going to jump into our interview with Jerrod. Well, Jerrod, thank you so much for coming on the show with us. We know that you are a busy guy, and so the fact that you are taking time out of your day to join us is amazing. We wanted to just ask you a handful of questions about, your experience as an artist who, I mean, you're doing a ton of pop culture stuff, which I think is incredible. But the reason you're on our show is because of the Disney focus that we saw, especially like on your Instagram page and on your website and stuff like that. So, um, if you could just, just to jump right into it, we would love to just know a little bit about how did you get into Disney art? I mean, it seems like it's such a competitive platform, with so many different people, like, doing their own style of art. We'd love to just hear from you about how you got into that in the first place.
Oh, sure. Well, first, thank you for having me on. I appreciate the interest. I used to do some podcasts myself, and I know how difficult it can be to get guests. So I'm happy to do it, and I appreciate you asking.
Thank you.
Getting into Disney art, really, it was just I was a Disney fan. It's what kind of made me go into art as a career in general. But I just kind of started doing my own art, just fan art, just because I liked these characters, I liked these movies so much, and it was just a natural thing to sort of draw these characters, and then eventually leading to drawing them in my own style and developing that and trying to do something a little different other than just sort of reproducing the characters on model or as we see them in the films and stuff. So, because of social media, it makes it very easy to do this and then get it out there and have sort of an instant audience. And I think, as you guys know, with social media, Disney has such a huge audience that just covers so many different areas of the company and pop culture in general that, the minute you post Disney stuff, it gets attention.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's one of the things too that I find so compelling about your artwork is um, sort of there's very much of like a kawaii influence in it,
Yeah.
which I really love, and I think it's so much fun. And so, are you currently at you're currently at the Festival of the Arts, right? Like attending that and showing off your
Yes.
work.
Yeah, my art, I'm not there yet. I'll be there February 10th through the 14th, but my artwork has been there since the beginning. So, yeah, I've been there from the first time they started doing this festival. I think it was 2017. I don't remember the exact year, but
Oh,
That was
yeah,
actually my
awesome.
always
next question was how long
okay.
you've been
Yeah.
doing it. So that's crazy.
I
Um,
did a flower and garden the year before they had started this festival, and then it became Festival of the Arts. So I would just come for that one.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I had a sort of a follow-up question with you explaining how you got into making Disney art.
Mm.
What mediums did you start with when you started making art in general?
Let's see.
Has
So
it
I mean,
always been just digital art, or where does
I
that
mean,
start for you?
we always start with paper and pencil. I think everybody starts with that. And certainly when I was going to school for art, it was pre-digital for the most part. I mean, the program I was in was a very traditional illustration art class. So it was watercolors and paints and things like that. We did have to take a digital illustration class as part of the major, but it was sort of fringe then. It was like this is up and coming, so you should probably be aware of it. But it was one class,
Yeah.
so it wasn't until I was sort of out in the world getting jobs that I really was forced to use the computer and use Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop and things like that. But I think everybody starts with paper and pencil or crayon and pencil or paper and that kind of stuff. So yeah, my background is sort of a traditional art, but certainly now it's all digital.
Awesome. Very cool.
one of the things that I feel like this is kind of an elephant in the room,
Mm.
and I want to get it out of the way immediately. A couple days ago, you posted this absolutely incredible little piece of Mickey kind of strutting along, and it says the Walt Disney Company, and you got a shout out from the man himself, Bob Iger. That must have been I mean, it was enough of a cool moment, obviously, for you to repost it on your social. Like that had to have been such a cool feeling. And
Yeah, for
congrats on that
sure.
recognition. That's amazing.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a very strange, unusual, surreal thing. I don't think you ever post something and think, "Gee, I hope Bob Iger sees this." It just doesn't occur to you that that would happen. So to go through those steps, to have him see it, but then also be moved to tweet about it and to say that and all that stuff, that was very nice, very generous on his part, I think. And so yeah, I was very excited to see that, and of course, I'm gonna show that off as much as I
Oh no,
can.
that's a huge
Uh,
flex. Every
yeah,
time we
for
put an
sure.
episode out, I'm like, man, I hope Bob sees this.
Yeah.
Um, so no, that's really awesome. I mean, that's such a great, such an accomplishment. So I mean, that's really awesome.
Well, thank you.
Um,
It's great to think that he even looks at this stuff, right? Like you wouldn't think
Yeah.
it would even occur to him to see some of this stuff. So I don't know how it got in front of him, but I'm glad it did.
Well, and at the end of the day, like he's a Disney lover like the rest of us,
Yep.
right? So I'm
Yep.
sure for him it's like he probably I mean, I can't imagine he really even thinks himself as like this big CEO as opposed to just someone who loves the, the art and the medium and just everything Disney culture. So that's really cool. But speaking of your art, when I was going through your Instagram page after we'd reached out and started kind of conversing about scheduling,
Hmm.
I immediately noticed a familiar style from the Disney Baby My First books.
Hmm.
So we have a 1-year old, and we bought her the My First Easter, My First Halloween, My First Christmas. We got her the first birthday one. And as I'm looking through your stuff, I see Sully from Monsters Inc. dressed up as Santa Claus. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like we literally read those books almost every single night. And in fact, I think there's others beyond the My First that you've done as well. And it was just really cool. Like the fact that, the illustrations in that book bring so many people joy. And like my daughter, like I said, she's 1. And so her introduction to Mickey and Minnie is through, like the Mickey Mouse's clubhouse and stuff like that. But really, a lot of it too is just sitting down and reading those books and, squealing every time she sees Mickey Mouse as Santa Claus or, like, especially like with the textures and stuff in those books that lend so well to the artwork. Um, I mean, that's really cool. And I guess, is that something, how long have you been doing that? I mean, as far as those specific kind of the Disney Baby
I
stuff.
think that's a good question. Thank you for that. That's really nice to hear. I think it's of all the stuff I do, I think probably the Disney Baby stuff will have the most lasting impression because I think when you grow up with these things, whether it's good art or bad art, you have a fondness for this thing because you remember
Hmm.
it from your childhood. And I think that's really what was the appeal of sort of doing this project. I started with Disney Baby, I think around 2015, I want to say. Might have been a little bit before that. 2015 might have been the first book that came out. And the exciting thing about that was being able to take sort of all the properties of Disney, Disney and Pixar, and
Hmm.
we looked at doing Muppets and Star Wars and Marvel and all of that stuff too. But to come up with a style that would go across all these characters and different movies and different, very different looks for these characters and have them sort of exist in the same world. So we do actually have this huge uh, they did do it as a poster actually for internal use, but it just has all the characters that we've used so far in all the Disney Baby books, and that was a real like to be able to do that was a rare sort of treat to work with all the characters and try to make them all look in a cohesive style and yeah, that's been great. It's a lot of books, it's a lot of work.
Hmm.
I was just working on them before I came to do this podcast.
That's awesome.
So it's ongoing, but yeah, that's great to hear. When I hear people talking about that, their kids enjoy the books. That's the reward for doing that project.
Yeah.
I bet that was when we were working through, which artists we were going to reach out to. And when Steven told me that he had gotten a hold of you, I was like, this is our daughter's favorite illustrator. Like, this is one day she's going to look back at this and be
Hmm.
so excited that we got a chance to talk to you because
That's so cute.
that has been like, I mean, I think we read that first birthday book months and months before she even turned
Yeah.
1. I can't imagine how special it is for you to even hear stories of people whose kids have had such a fondness for that and that
Yeah.
you're making such a lasting impact on
Yeah.
these characters that the kids already love, but to be able to do it in your own artistic style, that's just really cool. So
Yeah, it is.
we're
It's neat that it can be their introduction to a lot of these characters. I think some of these films they probably won't see until they're, much older outside of sort of Mickey and friends. But
sure.
yeah, to be able to do that and have this be their first introduction to a lot of these stories is, yeah, it's it doesn't escape me when I'm working on these things that is sort of the responsibility of these books.
Hmm.
It's hard to sort of keep that in mind. We do churn out a lot of these books. It is a
Mm,
lot of work to just kind of keep doing these books sort of over and over again. But
sure.
yeah, certainly certain ones are fun, especially when we get to use different characters and
Mm,
things that you don't see in every day. Like Japan's really good about doing that, so it's nice when we can use other characters here and kind of shoehorn them in with the other more popular characters.
that's
Yeah,
awesome.
well, it's funny too because your Instagram account is like a complete treasure trove of pop culture. it's everything from like, Guillermo del Toro holding up his awards to like the Otter Pop gang, who I haven't thought about in over a decade. So I'm assuming, and I feel like your Cookie Monster sweatshirt is kind of a giveaway, that you're obviously such a huge fan of pop culture and cartoons and stuff like that. So, um, I love that even though like you're contracted by one of the biggest conglomerate businesses in the world, that you're still like finding time to do fun things like, just create random little characters and
Yeah.
even some of the dim sum things and stuff like that. It's so much fun to see. And I think that um your account is personally like one of my favorites to look at. We've been following you for a good while, even before we reached out, just because of some of the familiarity and fun and stuff. But yeah, I mean, we love all of the guests that we're having on for this art series, but just the fact that our daughter, like I said, is such a big fan of the books that you do. Like, she pulls out some of the um some of those books, like, just from her shelf, and brings them over to us, wants to sit on our lap and look at them over and over again. She loves like the sticky pages and stuff. um
Yeah,
it
yeah, those
makes it
sticky
makes this really
pages are
special.
those are interesting. I know some people have complained that if you take that piece of paper off, it sort of ruins the previous page, but
Yeah.
I thought that was such an interesting choice for that touch and feel book, but probably popular for the first few reads. And then
Yes.
I'd imagine it's covered in lint or something
Yes,
not too
it's
long
Oddly
after.
enough, ours have held up okay, so
yeah.
That's
fingers
good.
crossed.
Good.
While also looking through your work and just kind of taking it all in,
Mhm.
it dawned on me not that long, I think yesterday, it dawned on me. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the Alien Remix guy. Um, and that's so, because I was at, I think everyone's been at Target or Walmart or wherever, and I've seen little green Martian dressed up as Carl from Up or whatever.
Mhm.
And I'm like, that's such a clever, weird, funny idea. And then it just all clicked together. And I love when like little moments like snap together like magnets, and all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, I see how all this is connected. That's so much fun. What was your inspiration for like getting into that kind of thing, where you just decided to jumble these guys together with every other Pixar property and kind of make it fit?
It's so funny. It was such a small little thing. I actually I did it sort of on my own, and it was something I did for the Pixar Studio store, the store that's in the Pixar studio in Emeryville.
Hmm.
Um, and it was just something I had done on my own and offered it to them. I said, I'm in touch with the person there. And I said, this is something you'd be interested in. And they did, and they made some like hats and, or t-shirts and bags or something, a journal, I think, just a few things that they have just for the employees and guests of the employees. And then from there, it got picked up by sort of marketing or the merchandise people, and they just ran with it. So I wasn't involved in that side of it. It was my concept and my original art that was used, and they did tell me that they were going to
Hmm.
do some stuff with it, but I had no idea it was going to be as big as it was. That whole concept comes from just my love of collecting and toys, and what Funko has been able to do so well is to take sort
Hmm.
of this shape or silhouette and just spread that across every known property in the
Hmm.
world. That was my thought with that too, is to do something as if it were a toy, as if it were a collection of toys, without thinking that they'd be made into toys. Just thought it was funny that you can
Yeah.
dress these guys up, these very recognized, and you can just kind of replicate the alien and then just put a different costume
Right.
on it. So
Yeah.
but yeah, it was just a fun concept. I think I was just going to do Toy Story at first, then I thought, well, this is going to work across
Hmm.
everybody, and so it just kind of came up that way. I thought it was kind of cute and funny, and then it's really big in Asia, and it keeps getting
Sure.
bigger there. They just keep releasing more versions, and it's even gotten to the point now where it drops off from the art that I had done originally, and they've done more characters beyond what I
Yeah.
did, and so but it's always fascinating and sort of rewarding to see it become this bigger thing, from something you were just working on at home in front of your computer to
Hmm.
all these toys and just all these different companies using that concept. It's been great to see. Yeah.
Yeah. What's funny to me about it is that, like, obviously you have the huge names like a Woody and Buzz and stuff, and
Right.
then I even saw like there was, I can't even remember the name of the character, but because like the Good Dinosaur didn't really have an amazing lasting impact on me, but like the
Right.
dinosaur, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, it's everything. I mean, it's like the most obscure
Yeah.
characters to, the most like beloved franchises. So
Right. So for
that's
the
a lot of
first
fun.
batch, yeah, I tried to do one from every film.
Hmm.
So there's a lot more, some costumes are a lot more, it's easy to do a lot from Toy Story and monsters and things like that. Harder for things like Dinosaur and
Yeah.
Ratatouille and those kinds of
Uh-huh.
things. But yeah, I mean, they did an Andy. He's dressed as Andy in one of them now. He's dressed as Al from Al's Toys Barn
Oh, that's amazing.
Wow.
and things. They've just really taken it and run with it. So it's been, yeah, it's hilarious to watch it grow.
Oh, that's awesome to see your idea become such a big thing. I bet that's really, really
Do
cool.
you have
Yeah.
a personal favorite of the ones you've made?
So there's so much, and I've focused my collection on the ones that I did that are based on my
Hmm.
art, and so like the Mattel ones, it's like they kind of did their own spin on the same concept that I did, but then like something like Beast Kingdom in the Asian market, they stayed very true to my design. So I've been
Okay,
looking for those kinds of things that represent exactly what I did. But people give me this stuff. If people see it out in the world, they grab it for me, and so I have
that's
this
cool.
really big collection of like cups and bowls and shirts and like I think they did pajama pants and just everything. It just keeps popping up. So it's been,
That's
yeah, the
funny.
collection has grown quite a bit.
That's
That's
really cool.
cool.
Love that. Awesome. I guess it's kind of a good transition into what would you say? I mean, do you think is your as an artist, not even just Disney artist, but as an artist, what would you say? Do you think is your greatest accomplishment that you can look back on and be like, yeah, I'm really proud of this, or something that I've done that feels like you've really kind of reached this point of I didn't think I was going to be there, but all of a sudden I'm here. I mean, that's
I guess a tweet from Bob Iger. That's it.
okay.
That's the
Yeah.
pinnacle. Yeah. Um, so I do get asked this question a lot, or sort of versions of this question. I think I always go back to the hipster Mickey thing that I did for Wonderground
Hmm.
originally. It doesn't look like the stuff that I do now. Even
Hmm.
then, it was sort of an outlier, but the popularity of that is what kept me in Wonderground and allowed me to do all of these other things. So while I don't feel personally connected to that style. It was more of a conceptual thing, I think, than it was a style thing. But it opened so many doors for me. It got my work noticed by groups that wouldn't normally notice it. And so that really changed things for me. So from a career standpoint, that was pivotal. Uh, from a personal favorite would probably be not too long after that we did Kingdom of Cute, where we got to do all the like cute versions of like ride vehicles and Space Mountain and
Cool.
Disney food. That to me was sort of the culmination of like what I like to do and my style, and people responded to it. And we did so much with that,
Hmm.
like shirts and hats and the blind box toys. And um, that to me was like, okay, like this is the thing I like to
Yeah.
do and want to do. And it's successful. So that was very rewarding. And yeah, in a way that was different than hipster Mickey. But yeah, so I think it's between like those two. Definitely work that I've done with Wonderground Gallery.
Hmm. It's funny that you mentioned hipster Mickey because I remember first seeing that, and it's one of those things where like when I first saw it, it was kind of one of those things where I just stopped and was like, wait a minute, this almost doesn't fit any Disney thing I've seen,
Right.
let alone any Mickey
Yes,
Mouse I've ever seen.
for
But it's
sure.
compelling, and it's a lot of fun and a great piece. And the other thing I find kind of coincidental and funny is that when I was looking at my notes before I asked you about your accomplishment, I have a little note here that says hipster Mickey because I want to ask about it. So that's funny that those two things coincided so perfectly. Yeah, that's cool. That's
It's
really cool. The Kingdom.
he's a very polarizing thing, which I find is sort of actually as an artist kind of what you want. If
Mhm.
everybody likes it, it can be kind of boring. If
Yeah.
everybody hates it, then you don't go anywhere. But if there's a passionate side for it and a passionate side sort of like that's not Mickey, it creates this sort
Mhm.
of perfect mix of intrigue, I think. And so I think you take somebody uh, like Madonna, right? As long as you're
Mhm.
talking about it,
Yes.
Yeah.
that's the win, right? Like, yeah.
Yes, you're right.
So
Yeah.
if you're forced to have an opinion about it, that's kind of what keeps it in the
Mhm.
conversation.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was funny to see sort of how that worked out.
That's funny that you said like people saying that's not Mickey because just recently Disney Plus put out that the documentary The Story of a Mouse, and there was
Right.
so much in that documentary that talked about what Mickey was, what he wasn't, how like Walt created Goofy and Donald to sort of supplement his angry and crazy personality for people who thought he should be more of a role model. So I mean, yeah, I mean, he's not public domain, but it's almost like he's owned by everybody to do whatever they want to do with because of, he's more of a symbol, as opposed to
Yes.
just like this singular character.
Right.
So that's cool. I love the thinking behind that, and we like it. We're not haters of it at all, of the hipster Mickey.
I
So
think it's great.
yeah. Um,
Yeah, it's a funny thing too because I know, like with Disney fans, as you guys know, are very passionate
Mhm.
people, and they take everything very personally. Not that we're playing with a Disney character; we're playing with their Disney character,
mhm.
and so that's great, and that can work for you often, and it can work against you too. So it's just kind of the playground that you're in, and you kind of have to embrace that. Otherwise, it can be very it can be rewarding, but it can also be upsetting 'cause
Yeah.
Absolutely.
you can get some of the worst comments over just the most mundane things, and it kind of blindsides you. So it's like you kind of think about that when you're creating this stuff, is that you want to be sensitive to it. I don't think it dictates what you do, but you certainly want to be sensitive to it.
Absolutely. I think that shows that you're a good artist too, because you're willing to even know that people are going to have strong opinions, but you're going to make good art that stays true to the characters and shows your creative style on it.
Oh,
And
well,
knowing
thank
that
you.
not everyone's going to be happy with that, and that's okay because it's your
Right.
creativity that you're putting on display for them to
It
enjoy.
doesn't
So,
take much though, right? Well, it's like I said, I'm
right.
sure you guys find out. You could just say like, I prefer Space Mountain at Disneyland to Walt Disney World. And that can just kick off death threats and
Oh my
Oh,
very
gosh.
yes.
Yeah.
angry people about how you don't know what you're talking about. And
Yep.
it's just the best and the worst. So
Yep.
yeah,
Yep, for
it's out
sure.
Yeah.
there.
We'll definitely ask you about your favorite attractions in a little bit.
Yeah.
So, you're
Um,
allowed
Great.
to
Put
have
me on the
whatever
firing
opinion you
line. Yeah.
want.
so
Yeah.
we may have covered this at some point, but tell us about your favorite piece that you've ever done. I don't care if it's like a doodle that you did in a coffee shop on a napkin, or if it's something that's been seen by millions of people. Is there something that really stands out to you as like your favorite piece? It just gives you, I don't know, just makes you feel good when you look at it, and it's just something you're
Hmm.
extremely proud of having done.
That's a good question. There was one I did a while back, quite a while ago, for Wonderground Gallery, called Love and Bloom, and it's a very simple Mickey and Minnie, stylized Mickey and Minnie, and there's a big flower that's a heart at the top. The heart is the flower, and they're sort of watering that. It's this very basic piece. It did very well, and we didn't
Hmm.
do a whole lot with it. It wasn't something but I liked the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
That it was this very simple idea, just done cleanly. And oftentimes when I do stuff like that, I worry about like, well, maybe I need more stuff, or maybe I need
Hmm.
more of a background, or something like that. But I sort of trusted that to be okay and let sort of just the emotion of it come through. And I think it did. And it's rare when you're dealing with so few elements in a piece that I think that you're happy with it. I don't know that it makes it good or bad, or popular or anything like that. But for me,
Hmm.
it sort of changed the way I approached a lot of my work. And it was sort of exploratory, which is what Wonderground was supposed to be, like trying different styles and different approaches to the art. So yeah, for some reason that one stands out to me when you say that. And it felt like more like an art piece to me, like
Yeah.
just a simple print, as opposed to trying to tell a story too much, or trying to get all the characters in, or trying to convey like the entire movie in one image. It was more just
Hmm.
about letting this sort of simple emotion come through.
When I look at your art, the overwhelming feeling is a lot of depth, a lot of shadow, a lot of just sort of, it jumps out at you. But yeah, you're right. I mean, this piece is very, very, almost shockingly simple for the kind of work that you do. But I
Yeah.
think it's extremely effective and it's beautiful. I admit I haven't seen this one before, but I looked it up as you were talking about it. It's great. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, I can see why that'd be something you'd be extremely proud of, and maybe be your favorite. That's really nice.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a fun one to do, and I'm glad that they sort of let me do it. Like, it doesn't look like the other stuff I've done for them, so it was nice that they sort of trusted that. And yeah, it's been rewarding in that way, working with Wonderground.
I bet. Is there anything new that if you can't tell us, it's fine. But is there anything new that you're working on right now that you're excited about, or anything coming up?
Nothing that, yeah, that I could really talk about. I'm always working on Disney baby stuff in those projects, and
Hmm.
we'll probably actually start working on the next Festival of the Arts. We do start pretty
Wow.
early for the next one, even though, so once this one wraps up, I think the artwork will go over to Disneyland and we'll support that. But usually by summer, we start, we're well into working on next year's art just because it takes so long to
Hmm.
get all these pieces done. And if they do merchandise and things like that to, start that process. I did just release a line of stuff with, for Olumal, the Duffy and Friends turtle
Oh
that
yeah.
just
Okay.
came out
Ooh.
at, that was released at the Alani, and
Hmm.
it's at Polynesian as well, which I didn't know
Awesome.
they carried the same stuff. So that just came out. So that's been the big push for right now. But other than that, that's pretty much it for the time being.
Cool.
Hopefully,
That's
I can
awesome.
talk about more later. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Well, we'll
we
be
don't want to get you in
excited.
trouble.
Yeah, we'll
So
be excited to see what
Yeah.
comes out soon.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so much changes with Disney quickly, so I never say anything before.
I
You
get
just
it.
don't know what's going to happen in the next, month or two.
Absolutely.
I totally get
We
it.
would never want you to say anything that gets you in trouble, so we totally
Yeah.
Oh
respect that.
yeah.
I have NDAs with small businesses that I do marketing for and work with. So if I had
Yeah.
an NDA with Disney, I wouldn't even like interview for podcasts ever. I'd be so scared.
Yeah, I
Um,
know. Yeah.
okay, this has been great and we're having fun, but we're gonna kind of transition into something a little bit different. And we'd just
Okay.
like to ask you a little bit about the Disney parks. And I'm just gonna let
Mhm.
Paige sort of jump into this one here.
Yeah, this is like you don't even have to be prepped for these. Just
Okay.
whatever you think, your opinion. So we'll start with what is your favorite Disney attraction? It can
So
be
yeah, that's a very
Disneyland,
difficult
Walt
question.
Disney World, whichever one.
So now, have you guys declared on previous episodes what your ultimate favorite Disney attraction is? I'd love to hear your guys.
Yeah, we have.
Yes,
Okay.
mine is Flight of Passage.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, that's a great ride. Yeah. Very modern ride.
yes, it
And
is.
what about yours?
Ooh, so mine was Splash Mountain,
Yeah.
and it's not anymore. I mean, it kind of I still really like it. It's fun. I think it's a dead tie for me between Expedition Everest and Star Tours.
Oh, Star Tours.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I
Yeah.
think it's a little bit quiche to say like Rise of the Resistance, so I need to give it like 5 or 10 more years before I say that's my favorite.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
Mm,
Yeah, it's for me, it's either, it's hard because there's so many things to like for different reasons and feel very strongly about those reasons. Like I usually say it's a small world because it's the most
Oh,
sort of all around influential thing. There's nostalgia for it. When I was young, it was probably, I would assume, the first ride I went on, probably that and Dumbo.
awesome.
So it just sort of wraps everything up for me. But for sure it'd be like, then there's Star Tours, which I still like more than the rides in Galaxy's Edge. And I don't know if it's just more nostalgia, if it's because it's the original trilogy,
sure.
and all that kind of stuff, or even like something like Soarin', which I think is something that, it's like one of the, I don't know, it feels kind of old fashioned, even though it is new
Hmm.
technology. And then with California Adventure, when that first opened, I mean, that was the whole reason to go to that park, was just
Yeah.
to, just to
Hmm.
do that ride. And it holds up. And it's the one where I think where you bring new people on it and they're just as sort of blown away by it. Then, with Star Wars, you kind of have to know Star Wars. Otherwise, it's not
Yeah.
that exciting. But
Right, you have no
Yeah.
idea what story is happening.
I think it was. I do feel like it was a little bit of a misstep to evolve Star Tours so much. Like I really miss RX-24 and that
Mhm.
original story that they had on there. It was just so much fun. It's still a great ride, but yeah. The funny thing was we Paige's one of Paige's favorite rides is Soarin' too. She loves
Mhm.
it. I definitely miss Soarin' over California a lot.
Yeah.
I think the Around the World is a fun attraction. It's nice, but especially growing up in California and kind of like identifying, all these areas that I grew up around and traveled to and stuff
Yeah.
was really
Yeah.
cool. I proposed that they should do Soarin' over Florida. I
Yeah.
think there'd be a lot of cool stuff to see. But no one's written me back yet, so I'm
Yeah.
still
We
waiting. I'm still
proposed
waiting
it
on the
on the
thought
credit.
podcast.
I really thought they were going to do more of that. Like just how we did. I mean, maybe not as manic as the Star Tours sort of randomness, but I
Hmm.
thought maybe like, seasonal or, every so many years. I like the California, and they bring it back. They're bringing it back for, I think, Food and Wine. Um, it's very like natural looking. And
Hmm.
the Soarin' Around the World looks too digital to me. It looks too sort of animated.
Yeah.
You know, some very nice things in there, but when you look at the simplicity of the California one, I think it's just so effective, just like
Mhm.
that. And yeah, I every time they bring it back, I go back for the California one.
Yeah.
It's one of the worst lines of all the attractions. I
Mhm.
hate standing in that line because even if it looks short, it's not short.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's the
I
only time I did Genie Plus was because I'm like, oh, I don't want to wait for that.
Yeah.
I still have a bone to pick with the bent over Eiffel Tower, but that's like a
Yes.
totally separate thing.
Unless you're
Um,
middle, right?
I
Right.
know, even then.
Everything's yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
What's your favorite? Do you have a favorite Disney park that you? I mean, I don't really care where it is in the world or
Yeah.
whichever coast. Is there one that really sticks out to you as a favorite?
It's funny. So Disney, I have to say Disneyland because it's my park
Mm-hmm.
and I live close and I'm so familiar with it. And I do love that park because it's like I think it's the size of it, the scale of it is so specific to California.
Mm-hmm.
Even when they sort of replicate it, it gets bigger in other places, of course, because it should, because our park is ridiculously claustrophobic. But that's part of the charm, I think. Right? Look, everything looks
Yeah.
cute and small,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be frustrating. But I think ultimately, I love it for that reason. Other than that, the only other park I've been to outside of the United States was Tokyo,
Mm-hmm.
and that Disney Sea is spectacular.
That's on our bucket list of things to do.
Yeah,
It
so
looks
that's
amazing.
probably if I absolutely had to pick a park, another park, it would definitely be that. Obviously, every park has its advantages. I haven't
Yeah.
seen uh Shanghai or Hong Kong or Paris, and so I can't really say I know them all. But yeah, Tokyo Disney in general, both parks, it's such a different experience than anything else. I just really love it there. So yeah, maybe Tokyo Disney Sea would be a close second.
Nice. Yeah, Disneyland is by far my favorite park too. It's the one I
Really,
grew up going to.
I think that makes a
Um,
big difference.
it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely makes a big difference. And I didn't go to Disney World until I was 24, 23, 24,
Yeah,
something like
I was
that.
an adult too. Yeah, I didn't grow up
Yeah.
going to that. It seemed like a distant, like we never asked to go to that. It seemed so
Mm-hmm.
expensive and far away. And
Yeah.
yeah, and you know, Disney World has the space and a bunch of parks and all that good
Yeah.
stuff. And from that perspective, it is you know, a better park. But if you're just looking at individual parks, I'd always pick
Mm-hmm.
Disneyland, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I started going to Disneyland like right around the time too when DCA opened up and the letters were in the front and they actually had the really weird sun face on the
Yep.
Ferris wheel. Um and then of course like, just yeah, I mean just the fact that it is the first park to me is it's just
Yeah.
it's not really something you can compare. And it's weird going to Magic Kingdom for me always feels a little uncanny valley. I'm like
Yes.
it is Disney and it feels like Disneyland, but something's not quite right with it. Like
It's
I don't
weird, yeah, that is
yeah.
such a weird thing, like, the transition between the lands, I'm like, "This feels weird, this, like,
Hmm.
Tomorrowland to Fantasyland," even though we have a similar thing, I don't know, just that you're just so used to Disneyland that if it's
Yeah.
not like that, and I think Tokyo Disneyland is more like Disney World, actually, there or Magic Kingdom,
Okay.
their setup is similar, even though they love Disneyland, I think
Interesting.
just for the space and everything, but I always say that Tokyo parks they're so clean and everyone's so polite and
Yep.
it's just an amazing experience that you kind of that kind of it's part of the whole experience, not just the park or a ride or anything like that. It's like
Yeah.
they really like it there in a different way, I think, than we do here. And it's just, yeah, it's really neat to see. Yeah, hopefully you guys can make it out there. I mean, you have a very young daughter, so maybe a
Yes.
few
Yeah.
years before.
Yeah, we'll give it time. Hong Kong Disney is also on my list because it's like the Disneyland castle with these beautiful mountains behind it and that just
Right.
seems like perfection to me. So,
That's the
yeah,
interesting
cool.
part. Hong Kong's the interesting part. Shanghai, for just the technology and everything that
Mhm.
they've been able to do there, like I do want to see, like that Pirates ride just looks nuts.
Yep.
Yes.
I can't wait to do some of that stuff. But yeah, I'm thinking hopefully to try to do all the parks at some point, but we'll
Yeah.
see.
That's like every Disney fan's
I
goal.
know, we would love
Right,
to do
right.
that.
Mhm.
Time and money, right? Time
Yeah.
and
For
money.
sure. Yeah.
First, we need to get to Alani, and then we'll do the other
Yes.
parks and figure that out.
Yeah, I haven't
Yes.
been to Alani either. I was hoping to go while this merchandise is over there and at least check that out. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't have kids, so Alani I've always questioned whether, you know, it's just overnight just to kind of check out the
Sure.
resort and
Yeah.
but
Well, I mean, it's a work.
that's
If you're going to check out your merchandise, it's a work expense. You
that's
know.
right. I'm like, come on, send me out there for a
So
signing or something.
it's a tax write-off.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
do you want to ask the last one here
Yeah,
for?
final question for you. What is your favorite Disney movie?
Yeah. This is the other one that comes up all the time too. So my go-to is Beauty and the Beast. It is my favorite Disney movie, I think, for a lot of reasons. But so Little Mermaid was actually the one that I watched and made me go into film or art as a career. I thought I was going to go into animation because of that, like so many of us did when those films came out.
Mhm.
So that has like a special place for me. But I think uh Beauty and the Beast all the way around is just my from the story and the soundtrack and all of that stuff. It's my favorite. It's my favorite film. So I think that's still a safe one. There are so many I love for different
Mhm.
reasons, but I think Beauty and the Beast was the one I saw like the most in the theater back then when movies stayed in the theater for a long time. And yeah, really inspiring. It was crazy to get Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin and Lion King
Yeah.
sort of back to back. It was just an insane
Yes.
time to be
Yeah. The
a Disney fan.
the titular Renaissance area, right?
Yeah, and Roger Rabbit before that. That was actually
Oh,
probably the first thing
are
for
you
me
kidding
that,
me? Yeah.
yeah. So to start with that and then to proceed into that, it was just like, yeah, like animation was being reborn. So it
Hmm.
was an exciting
Amazing.
time. Yeah.
That's a great. I mean, that's a great pick. It's a classic
Yep.
for a reason.
Do you guys have, I'm sure you've mentioned before or probably did whole countdowns,
Yeah,
but
yeah. We'll talk about it again. Do you want to?
Yeah, we have talked a lot about Disney media. My favorite Disney movie growing up and even when I got into my teen years and stuff, I would always say The Lion King.
Mhm.
Animal Kingdom's my favorite park. Flight of Passage is my favorite ride. I just
Yeah.
love. I'm always been drawn to that, and Lion
Are
King
you
is
an
my favorite.
animal person in general or
Yes, I
just Disney
am.
animals? Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
I wanted to work on a wildlife refuge when I was a
Yeah.
kid. Now I'm a school counselor, so I do nothing with animals at all. But I still love that. I've always been drawn to animals and
How
wildlife
old were
and
you
things
when
like
you
that.
saw The Lion King? I'm assuming you saw this on, was it a re-release or a VHS or something or a
Oh
DVD?
goodness. It was on VHS, definitely.
Okay.
Um, I don't what year did it come out?
91.
So
I mean, I said that really definitively, but I'm gonna
I
double
was
check.
not
No,
born when it came out.
Lion King was 94. Beauty and the Beast was
94.
91. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So
Oh,
I was
well then,
born that
okay.
year.
You were born
So
there. Okay.
so I did not see it in theaters, but definitely
Right.
saw it on VHS every single day of my childhood. Watched it over and over.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the difference because when I was growing up, I mean, it had just started to do where they release these things on video.
Hmm.
And so we couldn't watch these things over and over again. It was on that weird cycle of every 7 years they'd release it in the theaters.
The old
Yeah.
So I
vault.
think that's a huge advantage, I think, for kids growing up now. And it's like, oh, my grandma had this VHS and we just watched it over and over because that was the only one we had. And so that became the
Hmm.
favorite film. And
Yes.
it's
Yeah,
funny
that's
how
how I
that can
was.
really change, yeah, your
Yep.
perspective of it. What was yours?
Um, I Ratatouille to me is a perfect film,
Oh, very
and
good. Yeah.
that's just I know that it's Pixar technically, and it was actually made when Pixar was sort of separate from Disney. So I don't know
Hmm.
if it counts or not, but that's probably I would have to say that's probably my favorite one. I've talked about this on the show before, but I got to tour Pixar in Emeryville the year that Ratatouille came out. So
Hmm.
they sent me home with like all kinds of memorabilia and just little products and stuff, and
That's
it was
fantastic.
really.
What was that for that you got to tour? Was it did you know somebody there or
Yeah,
you can
so a friend of mine, his dad worked for the CHP,
uh-huh.
California Highway Patrol, as a pilot, and he had to land his helicopter on their roof. And
Interesting.
because of that, they were like, "Hey, if you ever want to come back anytime, we'd love to have you and your boys." And he's like, "Well, my sons have some friends. Can we bring some people?" And then he called me up. Was like, "Do you want to go to Pixar?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do."
That's
Um,
fantastic.
and I was dead set on working for Pixar for years and years and years and years. But I thought that the heavy workload of crunch time for releasing film seemed a little laborious to me.
Yes.
So
Yeah, yeah.
I kind of was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to enjoy the movies, and maybe in the
Mm.
future, my wife and I can do a Disney podcast or something where the deadlines are less dire.
What did
But
you
it's
think of
still.
Pixar when you went? Because it's a relatively small campus. Like I was always blown away at how sort of small it is. I mean, I know Disney's like a series of buildings and they're just
Mhm.
massive, but you go to Pixar and it's just this little campus in the middle of absolutely
Yeah.
nothing.
I know it's almost like a hidden. I mean, I
Yeah.
always forget how to get there when I'm at Emeryville and I want to drive by or something. Um, I was in high school when I went, and I was blown away.
Yeah.
I don't remember it being small or anything like that, but I was kind of the weirdo that actually watched. I think Monsters Inc. was the very first film I ever owned on DVD.
Hmm.
And so I think that, I took the second disc of Monsters Inc. and watched all the special features. And
Yeah.
so I already was very familiar with the layout of it and like
Yeah.
the secret rooms and all the, antics and stuff. So when I got there, it almost felt like I was familiar already with it.
Yeah.
So it felt just, I don't know, it just like felt great. I was floored
That's great.
by
Did they take
everything.
you to
Yeah.
all the little places and things in the studio and
Yeah,
everything that you
we
said? That's
we
great.
we
That's
did get
great.
to go in Lasseter's office, which I thought was
Hmm.
really interesting and very cool at the time. They were like, if you touch anything,
Yeah.
you're out. We got to go to like the cereal bar and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and the rendering
Yeah. Yeah.
farm.
Yeah.
We unfortunately didn't get to go to that little room where you have to crawl into it. I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah,
Um,
the little tiki room kind of
yeah, I
bar.
don't
Yeah.
remember. They
Yeah.
have like a,
Yeah.
a quirky name for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was like the full gambit. I mean, it was really amazing.
That's great. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there a few times for when I've had to go for work, and they're like very aware that people want to come to the studio
Hmm.
because you can't really come to the studio. So anytime I'm doing a project, they always say, do you want to come down and we'll have a meeting for no good reason other than just to come.
Yeah.
And I've had lunch there in that atrium, and it's just so weird to see
Same.
because I'm
Yeah.
like you, like I'm such a big fan of all of these films and these people and these directors. It's weird to sit there and have lunch, and then you just see like Pete Docter walking by with his lunch, and
Yeah.
Andrew Stanton, and and they're just so nice and generous with their
Mhm.
time. And then
Yeah.
when I did the Good Dinosaur book for them, they're like, do you want to come to Pixar and do a signing of the book signing with the director of Good Dinosaur and
Oh,
stuff? And I'm
man.
like, it was just that was probably one of the most surreal moments of my to be
Yeah.
in Pixar and signing books for Pixar
Yeah.
people. It just was very. I mean, it was exciting, but it felt like like a dream or something.
That's
Yeah, I
amazing.
actually introduced my daughter to Toy Story for the very first time, I guess last week.
Oh, really?
And
Wow,
yeah, I put it on for her, and she was immediately just like stopped everything she was doing and was just staring at it.
that's great.
She almost lost her mind when Bo Peep came on the screen. I'm like, you are a girly girl to the max, and I don't know how you got this way. It's great, but yeah, I mean, it holds up. I mean, almost
Oh,
everything they
for
do just
sure.
holds up so well. But all that to say, yeah, Ratatouille to me was just, it's, I don't know,
Yeah,
it's one of those movies I can revisit constantly, and I just think it's great. So
it's my
we've
favorite
actually went
Pixar
on.
film as well. Yeah, I
Mhm.
agree. Yeah.
We went on Remy's Ratatouille adventure for the first time in
Oh,
October
yeah.
when we were visiting, and I mean, it was like a miracle how we ended up on it. It's kind of I'll keep it short because we've told this story before on the show, but
Okay.
we I didn't get a lightning lane for it, and
Yeah.
when we walked into Epcot, the wait was like over 90 minutes at like what 8 in the morning, 8:30, something like that,
Mhm.
and I was just. We had a lightning lane for Guardians. We were like ready to go, and I was just dead inside the whole time. Like I don't
Yeah.
care about anything. I just want to go on this ride. And I kept checking and checking and checking. Nothing opened up. The line was just well over 100 minutes the whole day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we ended up. Paige was in the UK pavilion doing some stuff with our daughter. I'm like, I'm just gonna go walk over and just take pictures and look in the shop and stuff. And I went up to a cast member and was like, hey, is there going to be any new lanes opening up or any
Mm.
like openings for us to get on this ride? And he's like, no, it's been unusually busy and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, I really wanted to go on it, but maybe I'll just have to go next time. And he looks at me and he's like, how many people are in your party? And I go, just me and my wife, and we have a 10-month-old. He goes, hang on, I'll be right back. And he like comes back. He's like, okay, if you can
Wow.
get your wife over here, we'll just take you to the front. And it was like, I almost cried just because it was
Yeah.
like the perfect storm of something I really wanted.
Yep.
And it was like one of those Disney miracles you hear people
Yep.
talk about.
Yep.
And it was just, I think I thanked the guy probably 20 times. And I'm like, if I keep
Yeah.
thanking him, he's going to think I'm an insane person and tell me to
Oh,
go
I'm
home.
sure they're used to it. I'm sure.
So yeah,
That's
I wrote
great.
it. Great
That's that
experience. Super
Disney
fun.
magic that they can do. It's the best and the worst of it too, because I think a lot of people think they're gonna get that, and it's so
Hmm.
rare that it happens, but when it does
Yeah.
happen, that's fantastic. Let me
Yeah. I
ask you
wasn't
guys a
expecting it.
question. If you had to pick one resort to stay at, it could be any of the parks, I guess, maybe not Alani, one of the park resorts. If you had to pick, you can, free of charge, pick one resort to stay at. Where would you guys stay?
you want to say it at the same time?
Can we have separate answers?
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
of
yeah,
course,
because
yeah.
you're gonna have a different answer than me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can go first. I know what you're gonna
I
say.
would stay in the Animal Kingdom Lodge.
I figured that would be your. Have
I
you
want
guys
the
stayed
Savannah
there?
view though. No, we haven't. We
No,
visited.
we've loitered in the lobby, but
We
not
tried to peek
stayed
into
there.
a room. We ate there, but we've not gotten to stay there. We're hoping that we'll be able to stay there in the next few years with our daughter.
That's yeah. I think with the kids, I think it would be great. We stayed. They put us there for Epcot for the Festival of the Arts. They put us in the hotels, and they did last year for some reason put us in Animal Kingdom, which is very
Wow.
far from Epcot. Not
Yes,
convenient
it
at
is.
all, but
Yeah.
but it was great to
Yeah.
see. And we did have the view of the you saw the giraffes and everything in the morning, and yeah, that was really that's a fun
That's
a
my
fun
dream.
nice resort. Yeah,
Yeah.
So it's a different answer for you.
Yeah, well, I thought we were gonna say the same one, and then I realized I don't know anything. If it was in Disney World, definitely the Polynesian, but I want a good view. Like I don't want to be looking at like the parking lot. And then if it was in Disneyland, it would almost certainly be the Grand California hotel.
Yeah.
So
Grand California is great. I think the rooms are surprisingly sort of basic, but you can't beat that location to the
Yep.
park and just being there. At the Polynesian, what's the view you're looking for at the Polynesian? Is it of Magic Kingdom or is it just
yeah, I think just the
not
Magic
the
Kingdom
parking
view
lot?
just feels very appealing to me. Just being able to see the monorail loop and the Grand Floridian, the Contemporary, all that. It just seems like a great, a great place to stay. Because we've stayed in a handful that I was already really excited about anyway.
Yeah.
And this one just just seems like if I'm gonna stay there, I want to go all in on it, right? Like same with Animal
Right.
Kingdom, the lodge there. So I think
That's right.
it's just very
I prefer
appealing.
the gimmicky resorts. So like when we
Yeah.
usually go to Epcot, they put us in Beach Club or Yacht Club or
Mhm.
one of those because it's right there. We can walk into
Yeah.
the park. But Polynesian, definitely nice theming and all that stuff. Contemporary, I just like the look of that thing.
Yeah.
So any of those or what's the kind of campground one?
Wilderness
Fort
Lodge.
Yeah,
Fort
like
Wilder-
something like
yeah,
that.
Wilderness Lodge,
Wilderness
yeah.
Lodge, yeah.
I definitely like to do. I prefer stuff like that because, like Yacht Club, it's a very nice hotel and everything, very
Mhm.
fancy. But it feels like a very nice hotel. Like it's not very, for some reason, it's not very Disney to me. Like I want
Yeah.
characters and theming and
Yeah,
and
yeah. I
stuff
want
like
just
that.
one it
So
all.
yeah, I'm curious. Yeah, I need to make a trip to sort of try out these other resorts. So yeah,
Yeah.
oh, interesting answers.
Well, we're just gonna conclude by asking you if there's anything right now that you want to promote. Obviously, you said you're gonna be at Festival of the Arts in February, which actually it will be February when this comes out.
Right. Yeah.
But if there's anything you want to promote, talk about, tell people where to find you, stuff like that, just now's the chance.
Let's see. Find me on my Instagram. It's just J Maruyama. Pretty direct. I don't. It's surprisingly difficult to spell my last name, so it's not the
We'll link
the easy thing.
everything in our show notes.
Thank
So
you
you will
very
be
much.
highly featured.
And if you're for your Walt Disney World people, yeah, come see me at the Festival of the Arts. We'll be in the Odyssey building. They're signing the artwork that's available. The February 10th through the 14th, and then the new merchandise at Polynesian and Aulani if you're there. Other than that, I think that I'll be in California and Anaheim after we come back from Festival of the Arts, and we do food and wine too. So hopefully have those dates to announce coming up pretty soon too. So that's really about it at this point. Otherwise, just follow me on Instagram because I always post relentlessly about any upcoming stuff. So
Yeah,
Awesome.
you've got a great page. All right, Jerrod. Well, thank you so much again for joining us on this. We've really appreciated your time and all the insight and fun that you brought to the show, and I'm sure our listeners are going to just really love hearing your take on everything and just hearing from you in general. So thank you so much again. We really do appreciate it.
well, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys having the artists on because every little, publicity kind of helps for the artist. So it's nice to be able to get out there and talk about your work and sort of maybe introduce people to artists that they're not aware of or that they didn't know that, don't associate the name with the product. It's just nice that there's more of an awareness for that. So that's great. Thank you very much for having me on.
You bet.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right, well, that's going to do it for us, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. As always, you can find us at theparksacademypod.com, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, you name it, whatever. You can find us there. We do really appreciate the support. If you would be so obliged just to give us a good rating on Apple Podcast, we'd appreciate that. And finally, the only other thing is that we are actually pre-releasing our artist series on Patreon. We have a tier starting at just $2 a month if you are interested in doing that. And for some of our interviews, we're actually going to have some video content going up on Patreon early as well. So thanks again so much for listening, and we will catch you next time.